Hello YouTubers, I'm Colin and welcome to another episode of Tamiya Truck Building. In part 13 I'm going to complete stages 28, 29 and 30, which is the fifth wheel and battery container, and then I'm going to fit the fifth wheel to the chassis. In stage 28 we build the coupler, or more commonly known as the fifth wheel. Here are the parts for it. It's worth noting that if you plan to motorise this, i.e. put a solenoid on to make it work from your transmitter, a number of these parts are slightly different and they come in the truck optional part for motorised legs and fifth wheel. We start by putting together the metal plate that goes underneath, and the catch, or the bracket if you like, which locks the pin in place. Quite a straightforward, simple arrangement. Spins on a peg, and in a moment, as you'll see, we put a spring on it which keeps it in the locked position. Obviously this one on this truck is going to be manually operated. Because it's manually operated, there is a little 2mm ball joint on there which the control rod fits to. Which I'm just doing now. There we go, and just use a Tamiya spanner to tighten it up. There we are. So now we're going to fit this metal plate to the underside of the plastic fifth wheel cover, and it's held in place with 3 nuts and bolts. Interestingly, this end here has got round-headed screws, but the one at the top end has got a countersunk screw, so it sits flush against the plastic. There we go. What I'm doing now is putting one of 2 screws in place and a small spring helps to put the loop of the spring through the first one. Doing the second one isn't quite so easy. The way I do it is I put the screw in first and then just use a little bit of very fine pointed nose pliers to just pull the spring round the screw. Do the screws up all the way and then just back them off just a little bit so that the spring can move slightly. There we go. And you should have a spring load. Now I'm going to put together the control rod. Just a straightforward threaded rod with these plastic caps on each end as a set length for it, which is in the diagram. Just speeding it up until I get it the right length. There we go. The next part's a little bit fiddly, but we've got to put a long pin right the way through and a bracket, and whilst we're doing it we've got to fit a spring. Here's the spring. Despite what the diagram says, put it on the pin first, it needs to go underneath the panel to make the panel spring loaded. If you put it on the outside of the panel, it won't do anything. So I'm just trying to show you now. If I turn it over, because the spring, there we go, spring's in position. When it's fitted, it'll spring like that. Be a little bit more obvious once it's pushed together. And on the far end of it, it has one of my favourite 2mm C-clips. There you go. Just to hold the C-clip in place. A little bit of grease, no other reason. Hold your breath while you're doing this. Sometimes they ping all around the room. It's a good job I've got a reasonable supply of them. Hopefully we'll get this one right first time. There we go. That's it. I'm just going to clip on the rod. It can go on either way around. Just goes onto the ball on that actuating arm. The other end will be fitted to an assembly that will build in the next stage. Last thing that remains for us to do is to mount the fifth wheel to the plate that goes on the chassis. Have a look at the diagram, make sure you put the plate on the right way round, because it could go on one of two ways round. It's held in position with a couple of 3/8 screws. And there we are. You can see the rod will activate. Stage 29 is quite a simple one. Just cutting out the battery container off sprue D. And there's another couple of parts as well. One will be the lug that goes over, or the hinge if you like, that goes over the top. There we go. And a bracket to hold the hinge in place. And also the lever to control the fifth wheel. So we've got the parts we need. We're going to start by putting together the fifth wheel control lever, which goes on the silver coloured plate. It has a screw and a bush that goes underneath, so that when it pulls down it allows the lever to move freely. Quite a simple, straightforward arrangement. Self-tapping screw. Try a bigger screwdriver. There we are. That gets fitted down to the chassis, that connects onto the other end of the rod, and controls the fifth wheel latch. Now the battery box, we've only got a couple of jobs to do to this. One is to put in a large pin here, which is a securing pin that holds the battery in place. It's quite a large heavy thread this. If you try it without a bit of grease on it, you'll find it quite hard. There we go. There's a rod and a bracket on the back that holds this hinged piece of plastic in place. We've got 2 screws to go in that. You don't see it in this particular section, but when that's closed there is a spring clip that goes through the far end. In stage 30 we have 4 brackets to fit on the chassis, 2 on each side, and these will hold the various outer panels in place. Each bracket is held on with 2 screws. So I'm going to speed through those. Make sure you put the brackets on the right way around. They could be put on the opposite way around so that the outer screw fixing face is forwards and not backwards as per the picture. And then you'll find the holes don't line up on the outer panels. Front one goes just before the servo. And then we've just got the 2 pieces to mount on the top. There we go. So we now need to mount the 5th wheel plate and the plate with the control lever on it. We'll start with the control lever plate, which is just held on with 2 screws, and it goes literally just behind the gearbox, or in front as we're looking at it. Move the lever out of the way for the moment. Make sure you put this on the right way around. Pretty obvious really with the lever facing forward. 4 screws hold this in place. When that's done, that's it. The 5th wheel pivots for when it runs under a trailer. Connect your rod up to the lever, and then you can manually operate the catch. Obviously by default it's shut. That's it for this episode, YouTubers. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. Bye for now.